getting sunlight in the morning helps to lower your cortisol in the evening. And we don't want cortisol high in the evening. Clinically, we call these folks tired and wired, where the cortisol is too high in the evening, too low in the morning. And cortisol being elevated in the evening, that's a surefire way to disrupt your sleep quality. You might be unconscious, but you're not going to go through your sleep cycles effectively. And so something as simple as that, or just getting up and doing some activity, right, in the first part of your day is going to help to kickstart that cortisol rhythm and let your body get synced up again. But we could throw a monkey wrench in even that activity if we're on our screens late into the evening. And so, all that to say, this is where I really feel the next thing that people are going to hear more and more about is circadian medicine. And even the timing of certain medications, the timing of certain drugs, drugs, synonymous, certain supplements, the timing of our exercise, everything about us, what time we're eating. Obviously, that is huge right now. And that's initially why I brought this up, because even the timing of when we're eating food, that might be the biggest circadian, like proactive circadian synchronization thing that we can do as a human. And it has so many different health ramifications when we're deciding to eat or to, quote, break our fast. So, yeah.
I'm excited to share with you my favorite magnesium supplement, Magnesium Breakthrough from Bioptimizers. Click the link in the description to save 10%. And now back to the show. Lots to get into here. I want to stick on the circadian medicine piece since we're in that right now. And I want to get into some of the nuances here. You talked about getting that daylight first thing in the morning. Let's go really detailed, really granular here for people. This might be brand new to them. When exactly do they go out in the morning? How long do they need to spend? And what if they're in an environment where there isn't a lot of daylight, or they're at a time of year and they're in a more northern climate like me in Canada, where, it's winter time and it's harder to get outside? Are there certain things we can do, like lights we can get for inside, or certain hacks we can use to work around that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple of little tidbits here. And I just want to affirm this also, this recent study. This was cited in Nature Reviews Endocrinology. Here's a direct quote. It says, disruption of the circadian system can alter microbiome communities and perturb host metabolism, energy homeostasis, and inflammatory pathways, which lead to metabolic syndrome. So they're talking about the circadian timing system being gummed up, leading to the advent of probably the biggest issue underlying so many of our problems, which is metabolic dysfunction, right? So, and of course, a lot of our colleagues have been passing around, and it's been on the public consciousness that only about 88% of our citizens here in the United States are metabolically healthy. And so with that said, that synchronization, depending on where you are in the world, like I moved from Missouri to Los Angeles in 2019, at the end of 2019, just in time for the fun to start. All right. That's I'm being sarcastic with the fun. But being in Missouri, we got extremes of everything, right? Spring is spring in it. Winter, full on White Walkers. All right. Summertime, amazing, but hot, crazy hot. The fall, gorgeous, wonderful falls. With that said, winters are not fun to go out your door in Missouri. We can get into the negatives. And so having the audacity to go outside and get sun exposure is not really viable, especially for the average person. Here's the good news. Simply getting exposure, even ambient light coming through even your windows into the room, is going to help to sync up, because there's something about sunlight that is unlike any other light, and we cannot replicate it. I don't care what anybody says. We have all these different therapies. We got red light therapy, great, but we cannot remotely get close to dialing in what the sun is doing. So with that said, though, if you want to sit by a window and allow the sun to hit your skin, that's a different conversation, because it can distort the UV. There's UVA and there's UVB, and about 95% of the rays that actually reach us, that's UVA. UVB is what's needed to trigger the cholesterol process, the synthesis into vitamin D, right? So, but glass distorts that, right? So we're getting hit with a lot more of this kind of UVA, which can lead to some abnormal stuff with our skin that we might not want. This is not to say that you can't have that happen, a few minutes and you're going to die or something. It's not like that. But ideally, if you want to get sun exposure on your skin, you want to be in the nude. You want to be skin to sun. All right. But again, just opening your windows, opening the blinds, should I say, and allowing that ambient light into your room is going to be just fine. However, we're talking about building resilience. So if it is 20 degrees, and the crazy thing is, after moving to LA, I've seen how I've become more baby-like. All right. When it's like 50 degrees outside and I'm like shaking. It makes no sense, Jesse. Now, of course, I do my cold cryotherapy, all that stuff. But just initially, I would go out for my morning walk. And when it started to get a little brisk, I just see my body's just not used to this cold exposure when just going out for a walk. So now I got to put on a hoodie and the whole thing. And building resilience means let me go out, maybe go up on my roof or go outside for 5-10 minutes, embrace this cold that my ancestors lived in, and just, I could stare off into the horizon where the sun is at. You don't got to stare directly at the sun, especially after it's kind of rising up to a certain point in the sky. You don't want to stare at the sun. But just staring off into the direction of the sun, 10 minutes, maybe I'm sipping on some Gynostema tea or a little pu'er or some, your coffee, maybe some mushroom infused coffee. Just make it a thing. Maybe you go out there and you pop on the Ultimate Health podcast and you stand there proud. Maybe you take it another step, maybe you go up on, I lived in the woods, in wild woods in Missouri, and we're kind of secluded, so maybe you even put on your house shoes and some warm socks and you go out there in the nude and you stand there in all your glory. I never did that, by the way, but I'm just throwing it out there. So those are a couple of things. And also, last thing to add to the mix here, I've spent time in, all over the place, New York City, concrete jungle. Some of the best humans that I know live there. And that's one of those things where even getting sunlight is difficult because of all these tall buildings, right? So in a case like that, we do have advances in technology, like light boxes and things like that do have some clinical efficacy, especially against seasonal affective disorder. Very, very compelling evidence as to how effective using light boxes are. With that said, we still can't replicate sunlight. And so I would highly suggest structuring your day, structuring your life in a way that you're able to pop out, even if it's for lunchtime. Central Park is obviously, it's central. So there's a lot going on there, but just being able to find a place where you got some open access to some more sunlight and or ambient light. If you care about this stuff, you can structure it in your day. There is a way to do it. Whether it's you're doing a walking meeting, whether it's, your lunch break, whether it's, right after work, whatever the case might be. But even that, by the way, I think you know about the litigation, the Sunshine Act, where they're trying to make this kind of permanent change with daylight savings time, but in the wrong direction. So that would create a situation where, New York City folks are, kids are going to be at the bus stop and it's 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. and the sun still isn't up, right? So yeah, we just got to keep all this in context. And by the way, I did a masterclass really talking about the Sunshine Protection Act and kind of giving us the science around that, but also imploring us to we have a voice in this stuff. We also have a voice most powerfully in our own life, but we tend to tell ourselves this is the only way. I can't do it. I can't get it. It's too cold. It's this, it's that. It's my schedule. Where there's a will, there's 10,000 ways. And we can live our lives making up excuses, not to say that they're not valid, but every excuse that we make, we're putting ourselves in a little mental prison. There is absolutely a way that you could get some sun exposure in your day. You just have to make it a priority.
And coming back to the zoomed out overhead that we started this with, we were talking about setting the circadian rhythm or our internal clock. And when it comes to that specifically, we need to get that sun within a certain period of time when we wake up, correct?
Ideally, it would be within the first 90 minutes to 2 hours of the sun rising that you get some sun exposure, because some folks get up long before the sun comes up, depending on the time of year. Maybe the sun is rising at, say, 7, and they're getting up at 5. So just as soon as the sun comes up, if you can, just get 10 minutes. Some folks advise more. 10 minutes is more than sufficient, even 5 minutes, to be honest. Just to tell you this, I think even 1 minute, even just 1 minute. The sun, our bodies are so intelligent and it knows what that is. Our genes know what sunlight is. And it's just like, and every cell in your body knows based on where the sun is at, the location of it, what time it is, as far as your biological clocks are concerned. Our cells are so smart, but our belief systems can be so dumb because we think that our bodies don't have this intelligence, that are so far beyond anything that we're acclimated towards. So I would rely on leaning into nature, leaning into what our genes have evolved with, and letting that do the work, if that makes sense.
If you enjoyed that clip, press here for the full episode. I'll see you over there.
If you implement fasting mimicking nutrients like what we're talking about here, and I'm just mentioning a couple, like with MCTs, you're going to possibly up-level the benefits of that fast. They're used to literally make